Hello again. Now, South Africa is pushing for the extension of the United States-Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. This trade agreement is due to expire in 2025. But the Trade, Industry and Competition Minister, Pakstau, says an early extension of the deal will provide investors with much-needed long-term certainty. Let's discuss now this trade relations between South Africa and the US with Khulekani Mathe, the Deputy CEO of Business Unity South Africa, BUSA. Khulekani, good evening. Welcome to eNCA. Thank you very much for your time. As we speak in Washington, it's day 2 of the AGOA forum that's been meeting there to discuss the way forward beyond 2025. Even President Joe Biden just yesterday issuing a statement supporting AGOA and asking Congress to approve its modernization and its renewal. Will that be a good thing for us, for AGOA to continue?
Good evening, Dan, and to your viewers. Undoubtedly, the reauthorization of AGOA would be a very good thing for South Africa because as a country, we have very strong trade relations with the US. There are jobs in South Africa that are dependent on US investments in South Africa, and also jobs that are dependent on us able to send our goods across to the United States of America. So the reauthorization of AGOA is absolutely critical to South Africa, which is why the Minister of Trade and Industry is out there to make the case for the reauthorization as well as for South Africa's continued inclusion. And he is accompanied by a business delegation as well as a delegation from labor. So this is how serious we are, and we want to demonstrate this to our US counterparts that we are serious about this. We value AGOA as a country.
Now, there could be political changes ahead after the November elections. What is business's concern if Donald Trump gets back to the White House?
Well, we firstly welcome the support of AGOA that has been shown by President Biden, including in the statement that he made yesterday. But he has always been supporting AGOA. He indicated as such last year when the forum was meeting in South Africa. So that we welcome, and we hope that the rest of the US sort of political community kind of gets the message that this is very important to South Africa. He goes on to say that the US is all in on Africa and that this is a chance to demonstrate it. So this is the kind of support that we want to hope that that message really finds a place in the hearts of congressmen and women and senators alike so that there is renewal. Of course, there's no telling what the stance of a new president of the United States would be. But we would hope that, of course, it's not just dependent on the president, it is dependent on the Senate, and that's why the message has to reach and land on senators and Congress people.
Yeah, and we don't know what the Senate would look like after the November elections. Currently, what we know, Khulekani, is that there's a group of congressmen, both from the House of Representatives and some from the Senate, from both sides of the political fence, Republicans and Democrats, who want a review, who want a full review of the bilateral relations between the US and South Africa, since South Africa took Israel to the ICJ, accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. They've been very unhappy with South Africa. It's going to take a lot of convincing politically to the senators, for example, in a changing political environment. What can you as business do to help?
Well, as I've said, on the one hand, our being part of the delegation that is currently out in the US demonstrates that this is really important, not just to government, but to us, in fact, more to us as business because of the relationships that I described earlier. Part of the meetings, as I understand, that will take place or have taken place in the US do include some of those congressmen and so on who are not, who sponsored the bill in Congress for the renewal, or rather for the review of the bilateral relations with the US. So this is all in an effort really to try and make a case for South Africa to indicate that just like they're going into an election and there's going to be a political change, we've also gone through an election that has produced a particular political outcome, and that as a country, we are out there to really renew our friendships with those that we have trade relations with. And so we'd hope that the Americans will really give an ear to South Africans and hear what they have to say while down there in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, there are several key sectors, business-wise, economic-wise, that benefit from AGOA: agriculture, automotive industry, and some manufacturing businesses, just to quote a few. I mean, if AGOA is not renewed beyond 2025, you've mentioned one of the downsides could be that jobs would be at risk. But South Africa could find new markets, don't you think?
It's not that easy. If it was, we would have found those markets without necessarily having to be forced to do so by any change in our trade relations with the United States. So I don't want to create an impression that it is simply easy to replace the jobs and the trade relations with the US with somebody else. It is absolutely critical that we put all stops and try to convince the Americans that this is important to South Africa.
Yeah. Are there certain conditions that you'd want to see as business attached to the way beyond 2025 of AGOA that would even put our situation in a better position than experience has shown so far with AGOA?
I don't think we are in a position to put any conditions at this point. But of course, the fact that it gets renewed for a certain period of time does, in a sense, create a bit of uncertainty in times like this when the one phase comes to an end and then you need the act to be reauthorized. So there has been a move that says, actually, why not extend the period or actually just make it permanent? Because, by the way, AGOA does not only benefit South Africans, as the statement by President Biden says, it also benefits the U.S. economy. And so it actually is in our collective interest to have an AGOA and have stability and a sense of certainty. And so we would most certainly prefer a much longer period or a permanence of AGOA.
Yeah, the reauthorization could result in that. Let's wait and see. There's another aspect of this discussion that is going on, and President Joe Biden touched on it in his brief statement yesterday, and that is the modernization of AGOA. What do you, as South African business, understand the Americans seek to achieve when they say they want to modernize AGOA?
Well, I mean, the president's statement does not go into detail about that. But what I read into that very, very terse statement is really a sense from President Biden of how valuable AGOA is to the American economy, too. And so we would really look forward to a situation where we go through this phase, get renewed, and we find better ways and get to understand what they have in mind when they talk about, or when the president talks about modernization.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. That's Khulekani Mathe. He's the Deputy CEO of Business Unity South Africa, just sharing some of his views and opinions about AGOA. Now,